for the covers, I decided to just use a piece of Recollections cardstock. I've cut this out and sized it, and it came out to be 5 3/8 by 8 1/4. This provided just a little bit more width along this way for the pages to be protected. To adhere the pages to the cardstock after I cut it down, I actually have score tape in this really large roll, which is 5 inches wide. So I went ahead and used this because, quite frankly, it was just easier than to apply wet glue all over it, and then sometimes that leaves lines on your designs. I don't know if you've ever noticed that before. I don't particularly like that. I only use the wet glue when you have a thicker paper product, then it won't show up. But sometimes when the paper is thin, you can put wet glue on the back of it, and then you'll actually see exactly where you put the glue on the paper. So because this is the cover and I want it to be very secure and adhered down, I decided to use this big 5-inch score tape. So I really just pulled this out, measured the page, and then I cut it. Once I added it, so how I added it to the back of the page was I just lined it up like this and laid it down. But when I went to lay the paper down on the cardstock, I actually folded back just a little bit of it. And then this would be, so you would have, let's say this is your page, okay, and this is the tape on top of it. So I peeled this back a little bit and kind of creased it so the stickiness is here. And then I turned it around, and I was able to actually line it up a lot better by only using a little part of it. And then once that was adhered, I flipped it over and was able to pull the rest of the adhesive, cover off, and then able to just mat it back down on my page without any problem. So that was super easy, I must say. So I like how they turned out, and it actually made this very sturdy and thick. I did the front and the back. So this will be the inside back. This is the back cover, inside front, and the front cover. What I've also done is reprinted this page, cut out the 2 hummingbirds. I've used that foam, the foam sheets again from Dollar Tree. And I cut out the bird as well as the foam, and I'm going to add them here and here. I like, again, having that very slim type of dimension being added to the project. And then I've done the same thing, and I'm going to put a little tag down here. This is a little label tag I found in my stash, so that will be adhered there. I'm using this Tim Holtz, I can't really remember the name of it, but it has the word authentic on it, and I'm going to place that there. And then I'm going to decide which type of rhinestone gem to use. I'm either going to use this really pretty multi-color stone here because it goes so well with the blue, or I have this great teal color, which is a flat back pearl. So that's how this cover will come together. And this is how it turned out. I really like how everything's coordinated there. So now we're ready to bind our project. I am using my Cinch machine, and I was lucky enough to get this on HSN as a super good package. It is the one with the square holes, not the round, and I wanted something different, so that's why I ended up buying the square one. This is from We Are Memory Keepers. I absolutely love it. It has this secured belt on the side of it. The easiest way to get that off your machine is to push down just a little bit, and then it will come off, or you don't even have to push down. So then your handle will come up. Before I always use my cinch, I don't know why, I just always watch a video or two to see how others use it, just to kind of refresh my memory. And I actually selected a video today that was from 2010, and it was the president of We Are Memory Keepers demonstrating the cinch machine, the original one. And it was so interesting to see him as well as him demonstrating, and I actually learned something new. So I've been using my machine for several years now, and I never knew this, but there is a bar here that you can pull out when you have a 12 by 12 that you want to punch holes in or longer. This end right here actually pops open as well, so that you could do a 24-inch binding if you wanted to, and I never knew that. So that was just really interesting to watch and find out something new. So the components of the cinch machine, in case you've never used one before, it has the handle where you pull down to punch. It has these little pull tabs that you use to mark your holes that you want and don't want. It has this slide out ruler, and on the very front, it's really nice. It actually gives you the instructions right here, so in case you lose yours, they're already here for you, and you can't go wrong with having the instructions right on the machine. On the side, it holds the binding wires, and then of course on the back of the machine is where you put your coils here, and this pushes down and cinches them shut, and this up here is like your regulator on how thick you want your coil to be. If it's a 1 inch, you use this to move the marker to a 1, and then that will set the pressure that's needed to close the wire. What's also nice about the machine is it has a center marked on the underneath the pegs. It also has the sliding ruler has from 0 to 7 inches marked, and then right above that on the machine it has from 7 to 13 inches marked. So when you slide this out, then that helps you in the measurements. Another feature of the cinch machine is on the back side it has a drawer, and you pull this out, and all the little pieces of paper that get cut out will be placed in there, and then you can pull this out and empty it. Now normally what you would do is check down here on the chart for the inches, and if you had an 8-inch project, you would pull out peg 4. The peg numbers are on the bottom. On our particular project, it measures 8 1/4. So what I did to figure out how we would bind it, I took my Tim Holtz ruler and I put the 0 in the center, and I figured out how many inches it is to the center of the page that we are using. It was 4 1/8. So what I did was I moved the movable ruler over to 4 1/8 in the center, so that we would be able to punch our holes. All of the pegs are pushed in. When I did the 4 1/8, I realized that the ends weren't exactly even. So I tried it again, and I moved it to be 4 1/16 in the center, and I believe that comes out perfect. So let's give that a try. It's always a good idea to take a page that matches the size that you're using and do a test run. So with the movable ruler aligned to the center of 4 1/16, I'm going to put my paper straight in and it will stop you in the back and punch. Sometimes, you know, the little hanging chads, if you will, come out, and sometimes they don't. It's no problem. You just got to pull them out. So when I look at my project here and line this up, you can see that that is perfect alignment, leaving the same amount of distance on both ends. So that will be the measurement that we're going to use to punch all of our pages. The first page I'm going to punch is the cover, and it is going to be a little bit thicker, but you can put in 22 pieces of paper, I believe, and punch all at one time if you wanted to. I don't normally do that many, just to be safe. So let's take our cover and give that a go. And you see that punched out really well. I'm going to take a couple pages at a time and put those in together. I'm going to continue to punch these, and I'll share the binding at the end. With our pages all punched out, the next thing we need to determine is the size of the binding wire that we're going to use. What I typically do is lie the material down and then put a ruler up near the stack and look to see how tall all of those pages stacked together equal. So in this case, it's about 3/8 of an inch. So I really wouldn't want a 1-inch binding spine. So what I'm going to do is go to the 0.625-inch binding wire and use that. That is actually 5/8 of an inch, so it allows room for growth when they put material into it, but it also doesn't make it so much that the binding wire seems awkward because it's way larger than the materials that it's holding. One of the things you want to do is count how many holes that you have punched. We know there are 12 holes that we punched. So then you would take the binding wire that you're going to use and you count up to 12, and then you use a metal clipper and put it in between where you need to cut on the wire and then cut. So when you count, you're going to count the round ones, the smaller round ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then on the back side, you have a bigger wire. That's where you put your wire cutters and cut it in half. Now, I've already done that, and so this is what you get in the end. Okay, now we are ready to bind our journal. What we do is, with the larger circles on the side, or caps, I guess, you put them on the side of the cinch machine, and then we're going to start loading our paper. The best way to do this is to take your bottom cover and flip it over on top of your top cover. Once the machine is, once we cinch, add the wire, we cinch it shut, then you would take the top, which is the bottom cover, and flip it around. Okay, so I think we'll be able to load all these together at one time. So all our pages are in the right order. Our back cover is on the top. We take it off there. Next thing we do is make sure we are on the 5/8 of an inch here, which we are. I've already moved the setting so it wouldn't be noisy. And then we take our coils, our binding wire, and you load it into the back of the machine here. Remember I showed you before, right in here, lay it on this ledge, and you hold it up tight against the back of the cinch, and then you press down. And the wires are all cinched together. Another way to do this is add your coil to the side of the cinch machine. Add your papers in the actual direction that you want them. Top cover on top, back cover on back, and load them all together. Then we'll take this to the back side and cinch it that way. Push down and move your guide to where you need it on the 5 1/8 inch, and push down. And our journal is now bound. Now, one last thing that you want to do is to be cognizant of the wires at the end of each of the binding segment that you are using, and you want to take your tool and kind of curl that around so that no one gets injured. There. And that's it, everyone. That's how you bind a journal using the cinch machine.